Matt Riddle went on social media recently and he said, "I don't like Goldberg. I have my thing and it's true. He's not at the level. He made a lot of money, but when future wrestlers come in or someone wants to get into the business or a passionate fan wants to watch something good, I doubt they'll pull up a Goldberg match. They'll pull up one of my matches, a Kurt Angle match, a Chris Benoit match, a Bret Hart match, a Shawn Michaels match." That is a quote. Sheesh, talk about a man not giving two shibs. And look, I respect Matt Riddle. I respect his opinion as a wrestling fan. It is nice when a wrestler comes out and does shoot this straight, because you don't get it all the time. And maybe, just maybe, you may be thinking to yourself, it's a work. And I would kind of agree with that. But then Riddle went on to, well, he went after Booker T, he went after Chris Jericho, he went after Lance Storm, and those last two people have absolutely nothing to do with WWE. So that wouldn't tie into any kind of story. With that aside though, and I am a big Matt Riddle fan, I think he's got a great future ahead of him, I don't agree. Why? Here's why. Breaking the fourth wall for a second, by the time you see this video, Bill Goldberg may have actually returned to Monday Night Raw and challenged Dolph Ziggler to a match at SummerSlam. I know that sounds very crazy, but apparently that is the plan. But as we know, all plans can change. So he is topical, he is relevant, and that's why I wanted to bring up this conversation now, because Bill Goldberg, maybe not, who knows, is back in the WWE fold. And then on the social media world, or in the social media world, someone who is employed to WWE is saying, "Flub Bill Goldberg." And I do understand what Riddle is saying. He obviously sees himself as a similar caliber worker to those that he mentioned, and that's obviously the wrestling that he enjoys. And look, the former UFC man could go and smash it on Raw or SmackDown as soon as he does get called up, as long as WWE books him in the right way. He's got all the tools, he can have all the momentum in the world, and he just looks like a good chap. And I do enjoy that this has sparked a debate on social media and fired some people up into a rage. I think that's quite fun. And you can say that, I talk about Booker T and Chris Jericho and Lance Storm and Bill Goldberg, that it is a tad disrespectful, but that's up to you. Some people are going to love it, some people are going to hate it. You can't please everyone. When it comes to me though, I just think he's well off the mark when he said that nobody wants to power up the WWE network and watch a Bill Goldberg match. I do not agree with that entirely, because I'll be straight with you. Matt Riddle was straight, now I'll be straight. I absolutely love Bill Goldberg. Now, obviously he raised me and he gave me my bald head and my beard, and I'll always be appreciative of that. But when you do go back and you watch peak Bill Goldberg, it is like watching some kind of out of control maniac who just wants to kill the other person he's looking at on the other side of the ring. And ironically, all the stuff that's being held at him now as a negative are the things that made him so positive and so over to begin with. And I get it, I understand where people are coming from at times. He was a bit like a whirlwind of unpredictability, and you could say the matches he was being put in were too advanced for his experience. But if you want to say he didn't make it work, I'm going to tell you to go back to late 90s WCW, because the evidence is right there in front of your face. If you do go back and watch this, you just can't help but be taken in by it. It's like watching a bulldozer just destroy a bunch of buildings, and every single fan who was crying out his name only wanted a match to go 2 minutes top. Imagine that. I know it's a different time and it's a different era, but that is all anybody in an arena wanted. They wanted to hear the music, they wanted the smoke, they wanted the fire, they wanted the stuff coming out of his nose, they wanted a spear, they wanted a jackhammer, they wanted to look in the camera and go, rah. Then they wanted him to leave, and that was it. They felt like they got their money's worth. You got such an adrenaline rush out of it, it was the equivalent of taking a bunch of wrestling drugs, flying up to the moon, and then slowly coming back down to earth. And the way that Goldberg would look down that lens made you go, well, I know the rest of this stuff may be fake, but that guy is real. It was the icing on the cake, and let's not forget that you couldn't have just put any wrestler in that role. One of the main reasons it worked is because Bill Goldberg made it work. He was an intense son of a bitch, and he didn't give two shibs. And it's not like all his matches suck, which seems to be the rhetoric now in 2019. I know the one that he had with William Regal was a bit weird, and we'll talk about that for ages, but go and watch him take on DDP at Halloween Havoc, and then go do the same thing with Scott Steiner at Fall Brawl. And again, yeah, you can say, well, they just overachieved. But you still got something out of it, you still enjoyed it, you were still entertained, and that's all that matters. Even if the bar was here, and because they ended up here, you went, oh, I enjoyed it more than I did. Who cares? You still had a good time. And you will get exactly the same feeling when you do rewatch Hulk Hogan versus Bill Goldberg from that Nitro in July of 1998. It's nothing special in terms of what happened inside the ring, but everything else is such magic, it more than makes up for it. The desperation of the crowd to see Bill Goldberg become the WCW champion, the fact that he's fighting Hulk Hogan of all people, and that Bobby Heenan is just commentating his ass off, comes together to light up that Georgia Dome and make it, I'm not afraid to say it, one of the best moments in wrestling history. The man with the longest undefeated streak in the entire business may have been a novelty. My word, did it take a long time for that novelty to wear off, and by the time it did, Bill Goldberg had wandered off into the wilderness because WCW was dead. And I know that they'd already pulled the trigger on him long before that when they turned him heel and he was smashing glass and getting into weird sexual assault storylines. But again, even if you're Matt Riddle get caught up eventually. You got to have the right narrative and you got to have the right booking, otherwise we're all screwed. And now you want to throw in my face that his first WWE run was a little bit of a bust. And yeah, it wasn't great, although I will caveat that by saying the match he had at the Elimination Chamber was pretty decent. It just fell apart because he didn't win the WWE title and he should have won the WWE title. But that was two parties not seeing eye to eye. Bill Goldberg wanted to be treated like WCW Goldberg, WWE wanted to make him into WWE Goldberg, and WWE Goldberg just wasn't very good. But when you fast forward to 2016, when all of a sudden World Wrestling Entertainment decided they did want to treat him that way, you got gold. I mean, who didn't go absolutely nuts when he beat Brock Lesnar at Survivor Series 2016 in 1 minute and 27 seconds. It was the absolute best and created an explosion on social media, and the only thing to top it was probably the match they then had at WrestleMania 33, which for my money is one of the best sub 5 minute matches I have ever seen in my entire life. And I love it so much, going back to this whole, oh, nobody wants to watch a Bill Goldberg match. I watch that WrestleMania 33 scrap all the time, and if I'm ever hanging out with some non-wrestling friends, they say, hey Simon, show me a match. I put on Brock Lesnar versus Bill Goldberg, and they think it is a right hoot because it's just two giant men coming out of nowhere with absolutely terrifying maneuvers. It's like going, hey, would you like to watch Jaws versus King Kong? And that is a $1 billion movie idea. Not everything has to be a 45-minute marathon in the Tokyo Dome, and sure you want that, but you gotta have the other side of the coin, otherwise even wrestling will start to get boring, and man, we don't want that. I just think sometimes we're quick to forget that wrestling is at its best when it's so diverse. So I do want to see Matt Riddle versus Drew Gulak, which I did get at the Evolve 10th anniversary show, and I thought that was absolutely amazing, but I also want to see Bill Goldberg walk into a WWE ring and absolutely murder someone in around about 120 seconds. It makes me feel good inside. Why else do I sometimes sit in my chair in front of my computer, go on YouTube and watch Best Goldberg Spears Ever compilations? I ain't doing it for my health, I'm doing it because it makes me jump around my room like a little boy, as I do indeed see some of the best rugby tackles that the internet has to offer. So this is one of those videos where, while I do appreciate what Matt Riddle is saying, and I appreciate that he did come out and say it to begin with, I don't agree. I think he's well off base, and I think there are plenty of people out there that not only want to relive the Goldberg years, but also if they've never watched pro wrestling and they're trying to get in the door, Bill Goldberg will serve as a lovely way to introduce them as to what wrestling can be. That's the best thing. Massage hands are back. That's the best thing. Wrestling can be whatever you want it to be. I've seen a Bushi wrestle a blow-up doll, and I've seen Kenny Omega wrestle a kid. Give me more of that, and give me more of the serious stuff, and give me more of the dumb stuff, and then give me somewhere in between. Just keep ticking all the boxes. It makes the wrestling world go round. And I'll go out on a limb and say that will be the case too if we do indeed get to SummerSlam this Sunday, and it is Goldberg versus Dolph Ziggler. And that'll be doubly nice, because then we can forget the debacle that was The Undertaker versus Goldberg at Saudi Arabia. And let's take a step back. Hey, if you want to say we never should have put the dead man against Goldberg in the ring, you would be right. It's a dream match in the sense of like, oh, I never thought I was going to see that. But it's just two characters that don't mesh. But Dolph Ziggler, who's a bumping machine, against Goldberg, who's the maneuver machine, that works, and that makes Simon Miller a happy pup. Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you think about Bill Goldberg, Dolph Ziggler, SummerSlam, Matt Riddle's comments. I know they're all going to go crazy down there, and I'm ready. Like, share, and subscribe. Head over to whatculture.com, read yourself some articles. Follow What Culture on Twitter, What Culture WWE, and watch videos here on What Culture Wrestling. My name is Simon from What Culture. Thank you very much for watching as my voice tries to escape me, but I won't let it. I'll grab it and I'll put it back in there. As you probably worked out, I am a big Bill Goldberg fan. Hey, when I was a kid, my heart was with WWE, that was then WWF, and who was the guy that made me flick channels and hope that nobody would find out because I felt guilty towards the people I was loyal to? It was Bill Goldberg, because he ran through fools like they didn't even exist, and it was really, really, really cool. Sometimes when I turn up to wrestling shows, you don't know I'm also a wrestler, they say, Simon, how would you like to be booked? I go, well, we could always book me like Goldberg. And every single time a promoter goes, no, Simon, we're not going to do that. Because really, every wrestler worth their salt would want to be booked like Bill Goldberg. Thanks, Bill. I will always love you. Heart.